You know, for the last 20 years or so, marketing has really been about one thing, mastering channels. But in a world that's more and more mediated by AI, that entire playbook, it's becoming obsolete. The real competitive advantage today isn't about being just a little bit better at one specific channel. It's about building a smarter, better system.
Let's just be direct about it. If your growth strategy is built around optimizing channels in silos, SEO over here, paid ads over there, content somewhere else, it's fundamentally broken. And it's not just a little outdated, it's completely misaligned with how buyers actually discover, research, and make decisions today.
Okay, let's really unpack this, because this idea is at the absolute core of everything. We've all been trained to focus on channels, right? The tactics. But the companies that are winning today have figured out that true growth is governed by these underlying forces, the physics of the system. They've stopped asking, which channel drove this lead, and they've started asking, which systems created the conditions for this to even happen?
And here's the proof that the old model is basically flying blind. The data shows that our traditional attribution models, the ones we've relied on for years, capture less than 22% of what actually influences a purchase decision. Think about that. The huge majority of the buyer's journey is happening in what we call the dark funnel, in places like anonymous web sessions, community forums, and AI chats where your old-school channel-based tracking just can't see a thing.
So what we're talking about here is a massive shift in thinking. On the left, you've got the old world of channel optimization. This is all about teams working in their own little bubbles, completely obsessed with their own channel-specific KPIs. But on the right, you have the new reality. System physics. This is all about integration, overall revenue efficiency, and building a growth architecture that works together as one cohesive, intelligent machine.
So, what exactly are these new physics of growth? Well, they're three core levers that act as massive force multipliers: search, signals, and speed. And let's be clear, these aren't just new channels for you to manage. They are the actual architectural pillars of any modern growth engine.
All right, let's start with the first one, search. And to do that, we have to completely reframe what search even means to us. It is no longer just about getting traffic from a search engine. Not at all. It's about tapping into a continuous, real-time stream of market intelligence.
So, in this new model, you need to think of search as your live readout of what the market really cares about, right now. And yeah, it's happening on Google, of course. But it's also happening inside AI chats, on social media, and private communities, and even in the little search bar on your own website. Every single one of those queries is a moment where a buyer is revealing their intent, often long before they're ever ready to be marketed to. The really elite teams are mastering search across three different dimensions. First, they use it as a form of predictive market research, spotting trends way before their competitors do. Second, they're focused on what we call AI engine optimization, or AEO, making sure their brand is the default answer in AI-generated responses. And third, they use it for go-to-market coordination. I mean, think of a company like Gong. They use search data not just for SEO, but to understand the evolving language of sales itself, which then informs their entire strategy. It becomes the connective tissue for the whole organization.
All that intelligence that you get from search flows naturally into our second lever, signals. Look, the old world was completely binary. A contact was either a marketing qualified lead in MQL or they weren't. That model is dead. Today, your buyers are constantly emitting streams of intent data, and our job is simply to learn how to read those signals.
Signal intelligence is really about analyzing dozens of different data points, behavioral, contextual, time-based, to understand not if someone is a lead, but what their readiness is, what their priority is, and the actual probability of them buying. It's about moving away from guesswork and toward a predictable science of pipeline generation.
And these signals, they operate at different altitudes. You've got your market signals. These are the big macro shifts in language or category trends. Then you have buyer signals, which are those individual readiness indicators like what content someone is consuming. And finally, you have account signals, which show you when multiple people at one of your target companies are all showing intent at the same time. Put them all together, and you get a stunningly complete picture of where the opportunity is.
And that brings us to the third and final lever, speed. Now, when I say speed, I don't mean working frantically or burning your team out. This is about systemic velocity. It's about minimizing the time it takes to get an insight from search and signals and then actually taking action on it.
This is why speed creates such a massive compounding advantage. The old model, right? It might allow for maybe one major learning cycle per quarter, but a high-velocity team can execute 12 or more cycles in that exact same amount of time. And this doesn't just create a small marginal gain.
The learning actually compounds, creating exponential separation from competitors who are still stuck in those endless quarterly planning meetings.
So, how do you actually build this kind of speed? Well, it's the outcome of very intentional design. It comes from having empowered, cross-functional teams. It's driven by rapid operational rhythms like daily stand-ups and weekly sprints. It's enabled by an integrated tech stack. And, maybe most importantly, it's fueled by a culture that rewards learning and iteration way more than it rewards perfection.
But here's the crucial part. These three levers, search, signals, and speed, they don't operate in isolation. Their true power, their real magic, is only unleashed when they're integrated into a single, reinforcing growth operating system.
This closed-loop architecture is where the system becomes self-improving. It's a beautiful thing. Search reveals what the market truly cares about. Signals then identify exactly who is showing intent around those topics. Speed allows your team to rapidly respond to that intent, way before your competitors even know it exists. And then, the results of that action feed right back into the system, refining your search strategy and your understanding of which signals matter most. The system literally gets smarter with every single cycle.
And the business outcomes of having a system like this, they're profound. You get much sharper targeting, which directly lowers your customer acquisition costs. You achieve better conversion rates and higher revenue efficiency. You create that faster learning we talked about, which builds a real competitive moat. And at the end of the day, you build a more predictable pipeline, which gives the entire business confidence to invest and grow.
So what does all this mean for you as a leader? Well, it means your mandate has changed. Your job is no longer to be the best channel manager in the company. Your job now is to be the growth systems architect.
Just look at the difference. On the left, that's the past. A manager focused on just executing campaigns and buying media. On the right, that's the future. An architect focused on total revenue efficiency, data integration, and building the operational velocity of the entire growth engine. It is a fundamental shift in responsibility and, frankly, in strategic importance.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. When your growth stalls or it becomes inefficient, the root cause is almost never a channel problem. It is an architecture problem. You don't need a new ad campaign. You need a new operating system.
Look, this isn't some aspirational, futuristic framework. It is already operational at the highest performing companies in the world today. The performance gap between the organizations who build this system and those who don't is widening every single day. So the only real question left is, will you build it before your competition does?